Hello, Mr. Keeling. How are you?
Hi, Mr. Jordan. I'm very well. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for bringing the tone down a little bit. This is very serious. This is work, isn't it? How have you been doing? How have you been coping in the lockdown?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. I called around to some children yesterday, made sure that they were all working hard at home. However, our year 2 inbox has been absolutely inundated by people sending us their poetry competition entries, which have been absolutely fantastic so far. We've had a poem about the NHS. We've had
Yep.
children singing funny
Uh-huh.
poems. We've had children playing instruments, which actually they have learned during the time that they've been off of school, which is
So they took all this
fantastic.
time that they had off and they actually used it to learn a new skill. I think that's really something that we should all be doing. I know that you've learned yourself a new skill. I've been developing all sorts of new things. There's shoelace tying. We could learn a new language. There are so many courses on YouTube to do. I know that Mr. Moore has been doing a chess club as well. There are so many exciting things that we could be learning in this time, and it's really great to see that children have been doing that. Could I also add, Mr. Keeling, some of those poetry readings have been getting hundreds and hundreds of hits online. They're really popular, not just in our school, but all over the place.
Absolutely. Um, and that really is the focus of today's video, the poetry competition, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
We thought that now would be a good time to just refresh everyone's memory of the poetry competition, and also to suggest a few features that they can put into their poetry.
Yeah.
Features such as repetition.
Yep.
Is a good feature of poetry, because poetry is supposed to be remembered and performed at times. It helps to have parts of the poems that are the same and repeat to aid memory. Do you know any features of poetry, Mr. Jordan?
Well, I know that poems don't need rhyme, and that's not really an important feature of a poem, but I've got to be honest, Mr. Keeling, I really like a rhyming poem, and I do like to put a little bit in there. I also know that one of the more important things when it comes to a poem is about the rhythm of a poem, and the
Mm,
way that we make sure that the poem has a steady rhythm is we think about the syllables in a line. Syllables, they are the beats that are within a word, and I know that that's really important when it comes to poetry.
absolutely. And kind of on that thought, what we thought would be nice is if Mr. Jordan and I both created our own poems to share with you now that use some of these poetic features.
Yep.
I believe you're going to start by reading your poem out, Mr. Jordan. You've hidden quite a few features in there. You're not going to tell the children in this video. It's up to them to try and spot the features within the poem, isn't it?
Yeah. And can I say we both gave ourselves a time limit of, was it 2 minutes that we had to
Yes.
write this? Okay, so we're not saying it's the best thing in the world, but it is something that you can do. As long as you follow a kind of system and a pattern, it is actually quite manageable. So here's my short poem. I haven't titled it yet or given it a name or anything like that. Confusion, panic, questions in the air. I've heard it's coming. It can reach anywhere. Sirens blazing, news tubes banging. I've heard it was bats, those rats that like hanging. The shops have closed. Where will I get my tea? I've heard you go online. That's what I saw on TV. Will this be over? It's driving me round the bend. I've heard it'll only be done when Boris says it's the end. So that's my little poem. You can't see it because of my background that I wrote. There are some of the features that we were talking about in there, and maybe you could pick up and recognize them. Mr. Keeling, you've also done a poem?
I have, and bear in mind, everyone, I had the exact same time limit as Mr. Jordan's poem there, and I'm going to share mine now. I think my feature's probably a little bit more obvious than yours, Mr. Jordan, but
Okay.
I'd still be impressed if anyone can pick up on that. So here is mine. There was a dog named Fred. He really enjoyed his fluffy bed.
And that's also really good. Well done. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's not too obvious what the feature is there.
No, I think there are subtle nuances to that poem. There's undertones of great, it's, yeah, you've done really well there. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank
I mean, 2 minutes. That was in 2 minutes. So
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, it is amazing that you can achieve that. Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? Is that children can achieve anything in a bit of given time. Also, I was just going to say that just because you've finished a poem, that doesn't mean it's over. You know, the greatest poems, you have to go back, you tinker, you change. 2 minutes is not really enough to get a great poem, is it? This might be something that takes you several days. Don't just think you've done something, there it is. It should be something that you look back on, you change and you adapt. You know, J.K. Rowling didn't write Harry Potter in one take, did she?
Absolutely not. And there are a wealth, we've mentioned a few, but there are a wealth and a raft of features that you can use in your poem. You could do a shape poem, which makes the poem itself look like the thing that you're describing. You could do an acrostic poem where each letter of each line spells out a word vertically. You could use alliteration, where the beginning letters of the words are all the same. So the snake slowly slithered, giving it a S, a hissing sound.
Can I add in there for 1 second?
Oh,
Sorry to pause you. We did start by saying that that's what we would do. We were going to do alliteration, do it alphabetically, and it didn't take us very long. We said acrid ants always act atrociously. Then we went to B. Behold benign beer moths behind brilliant bumblebees. C. Curious cats calmly claw carefully. So it's actually quite simple that you could use the pattern of going through the alphabet to do that, couldn't you?
Absolutely. And I suppose the key thing with alliteration is, this is perhaps the trickiest part. The words that you put together still have to make sense. It can't just be random. It can't be a happy hat. I mean, I suppose it could be a happy hat.
Could be a happy hat.
Could be
I can see the happy hat right now. It's pretty happy.
But you get what I mean. The words have to work together and make sense. People do have to understand them. Anyway, we thought that this would just be a good time, as we said, for a little update and a little bit of fun with the poems. Obviously, when you write yours, you're going to spend more time and you're going to make them brilliant. And we'd love to see you send more and more of that poetry, rather, to the year group email address. Could you remind everyone where that is, please, Mr. Jordan?
Well, the year group email address, actually, currently, if you just send it to any of your year group leaders, so your Y5 or Y6 at anglesey.beham.school.uk, and they will send it on to us. If you want to send it directly to us, Mr. Keeling's on Y2 at Anglesey, I'm on Y3 at Anglesey, and you can do that. And I'd like to also, Mr. Keeling, give a shout out, because not only have the children been doing some amazing poems, but also the teachers have been sending in some fantastic poems. Yeah, I know there's been some really good stuff going online, so thank you to everyone who's getting involved.
And just with that as well, it would be a very good starting point if you checked out the school YouTube account, because as Mr. Jordan says, teachers, children, there's lots of good poetry content on there, at least about 10 videos maybe, sir?
Yeah, it's all in a poetry playlist, so you can start from the top and you can work your way down, and we're going to just keep adding to that as time goes on.
Brilliant. I think that's all we have to say for now, so we look forward to seeing your entries into the competition.
We do. Bye, Mr. Keeling.
And goodbye, Mr. Jordan.